People's imaginations have been sparked for ages by the story of Atlantis, a mythological metropolis that was thought to have been lost. It was originally brought to light by the Greek philosopher Plato, and according to him, Atlantis was a magnificent society that flourished more than 11,600 years ago, but was wiped off the face of the world as a result of a catastrophic event. After that, the enigma of Atlantis was brought to the attention of a very large number of people. The hunt for the Lost City of Atlantis consumed significant time and effort on the part of a great number of archaeologists and experts. But except for a few urban legends, this city and its empire remain shrouded in mystery. Are we on the brink of unlocking the secrets of this ancient civilization? Or is Atlantis destined to remain forever submerged in mystery? Who was Plato? Plato was a famous ancient Greek philosopher who lived between the years 428 BC and 348 BC. His views have had a significant impact on Western culture and thinking, which has led to widespread recognition of him as one of the most significant people in the history of the development of Western philosophy. The dialogues of Plato, who was a pupil of Socrates and the teacher of Aristotle, are often regarded as some of the most important writings produced by philosophers throughout history. First, let's investigate the organizational framework of Atlantis and the empire it ruled over. Atlantis was a highly developed and rich society with an intricate social and political system, as described in the writings of Plato. It is stated that the people who lived in Atlantis possessed sophisticated technological capabilities and were proficient in a variety of fields, including agriculture, engineering, and architecture. They were also renowned for their military might, with a strong fleet and an army that was exceptionally well organized. It was stated that the city itself was embellished with gorgeous temples, palaces, and gardens, and that it was ringed by rings of water and land. They were one of the few civilizations that existed during that time period that had a plentiful supply of gold and metal. The perspective that Plato has on Atlantis is an essential component of the narrative. Plato paints a rich and detailed picture of Atlantis in the dialogues Timaeus and Critias that he wrote. He paints it as a mighty and rich kingdom that was finally brought to its knees in the span of a single day and night by a series of devastating earthquakes and floods. The tale certainly sounds incredible, but can't really be trusted. To have a better grasp on where the legend of Atlantis came from, we need to investigate the history of Solon and Plato's forefathers, as well as the relationship between the two. Solon was a prominent Athenian politician and legislator who flourished in the 6th century before the Common Era. Plato claims that his grandpa told him about Atlantis, and his grandfather told him that Solon told him about Atlantis. During his trips to Egypt, Solon learnt about Atlantis from Egyptian priests. These Egyptian priests told Solon that this disastrous catastrophe and the destruction of Atlantis occurred 9,000 years ago according to today's period, which is 11,600 years ago. The fact that Atlantis was connected to ancient Egypt adds a further dimension of complication to the narrative. The Minons, who were called after the mythical king Minos, were a civilization that thrived on the Greek islands of Crete and Thera, now known as Santorini, more than 4,000 years ago. This civilization is the subject of one of the more modern ideas about Atlantis. The Minons are credited with establishing Europe's first major civilization. They are responsible for the construction of magnificent palaces as well as paved roadways, and were the first Europeans to adopt a written language known as Linear A. However, at the height of their strength, the Minons mysteriously vanished from history. This persistent mystery has encouraged speculation in a connection between this magnificent society and Plato's Atlantis, which was believed to have been destroyed by an undersea catastrophe. Historians think that a large earthquake occurred on the island of Thera around the year 1600 BC, which triggered an eruption that sent 10 million tons of rock, ash and gas into the sky. The tsunamis that followed the eruption were powerful enough to destroy all of the Minoan settlements located across the area. As a result of this catastrophe, the Minons may have been more susceptible to invasion by people living on the Greek mainland. The work of Charles Hapgood, whose book Earth's Shifting Crust was published in 1958 and contained a preface by Albert Einstein, is the basis for yet another hypothesis, which proposes that Atlantis was in reality a far more temperate version of what is now Antarctica. This theory is founded on the idea that Atlantis ever existed. According to Hapgood, the crust of the Earth moved around 12,000 years ago, which displaced the continent that eventually became Antarctica from a position that was far further north than it is now. A sophisticated civilization formerly resided on this continent when it was warmer, but the continent's abrupt move to its present position in a colder climate led to the demise of the civilization's residents, who were known as the Atlanteans, and their beautiful metropolis was buried beneath layers of ice. Since Hapgood's proposal was proposed before the scientific community had a comprehensive knowledge of plate tectonics, the concept of a shifting crust was generally considered to be on the periphery of Atlantean beliefs at the time. The assertion that Plato made about a vanished civilization is supported by geological data as well. Plato's account of Atlantis has a remarkable similarity to a geological structure in Mauritania called the Richat structure, which is sometimes referred to as the Eye of the Sahara. Both names refer to the same feature. Some people have hypothesized that the building may be the remnants of the long-lost metropolis due to the fact that it has concentric rings and a central depression. In addition, the description of the location of the mountains that he provided is correct. In addition to this, the geological similarities that can be found between the Richat structure and the city of Atlantis raise the likelihood that there was some kind of connection between the two. It is incredibly intriguing, despite the fact that the facts do not offer an answer that can be considered final. Over the course of history, the vast majority of historians and scientists have arrived at the conclusion that Plato's myth of the lost kingdom of Atlantis was a work of fiction. This conclusion was reached by a large number of these individuals. According to this line of reasoning, the ancient Greek philosopher thought of Atlantis as his idea of a perfect society, and he penned the account of its collapse to serve as a parable about how the gods punished human hubris by destroying civilization. In other words, Atlantis was a utopia in the ancient Greek philosopher's mind. The only documented evidence of Atlantis that has come down to us from ancient Greece is found in Plato's dialogues. Other than that, there is nothing. This includes any of the innumerable other books from that historical period that have been preserved to the present day. In addition, despite the considerable advances that have been achieved in recent decades in the disciplines of oceanography and mapping of the ocean floor, no proof of a buried culture has been uncovered as of yet. While Atlantis may remain concealed beneath the ocean's depths, the spirit of exploration lives on, and there are countless other mysteries awaiting discovery. If you've been captivated by our video, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay tuned for our upcoming adventures in unraveling the world's enigmas. Thank you for joining us on this captivating odyssey through time and myth.